Hi everyone and welcome to this video. I'm Minxlaura123 and this is going to be a story time video. So I did one recently and people seem to like it, asked me to do some more, so that is what I'm going to be doing in this video. It's going to be kind of like a holiday themed story time video, so I hope you'll enjoy watching. If you do, by the way, please click like, comment, share and please subscribe to my channel. That would be awesome. Oh, and don't forget to smash that notification bell to all notifications, then you can see when I've uploaded new videos and also when I'm doing live streams. So yes, holiday themed. This story is about something that happened many years ago. Like I was so young, I was like, I don't know, 9 or 10 or something. Basically, when we would go on a holiday, my mum and dad would always take me to the same place every year, sometimes several times a year. So it was Butlins at Bognor Regis. And I would just say I'd love to go back there now as an adult because it'd just be so amazing to kind of go back to where I always used to go. But then the other part of me doesn't want to go back there as an adult because I know it's completely changed and it kind of like, I don't know, ruined my memories of the place. But anyway, so yeah, Butlins at Bognor Regis. Let me know if you've ever been to a Butlins. So it's like a kind of holiday camp resort place, and they've got a few kind of scattered around here in the UK. And yeah, we used to go there all the time. My mum would be like, "We're going on holiday. Okay, where are we going? It's Bognor Regis. Okay." But to be fair, I was always excited because I loved it there. It was always so much to do, especially as a kid. There were loads of like kids stuff to do. It was just brilliant. I loved going there. And we used to stay in these lovely chalets, and it was just, I don't know, it was a big part of my life as a child going to Butlins, right? In Bognor. So this story, now I will say, I was kind of contemplating telling this story. And when I told Nathan, who's my fiance, if you're new here, he knows this story. Like it's one of our kind of old family memory stories, you know. I told him I was going to do a video saying this story, and he was like, "Oh, be careful because people might not like that." And I was like, "Oh, they'll find it funny." It was only when I kind of thought about it a bit more, I thought, "Oh, actually, maybe some people would be either offended or annoyed. I don't know." I'm hoping you're not going to be. I'm hoping that you, my viewers, know me well enough to enjoy this story and know my mum well enough as well to kind of know this story and think it's funny and amusing and not sort of take offence or get angry about it. But I will say in advance, it was many years ago. And anyway, so let me get into the story. Okay, so basically, when we used to go to Butlins, there'd always be a show on. Every night they would put on a show. They had this little theatre there called the Gaiety Theatre, and it was a beautiful little old theatre that they'd put on the camp and stuff. So we would go there every night and see a show, and they'd always have like either the red coats that were performing. Oh, by the way, yeah, if you don't know, red coats are the staff that work at Butlins. They'd always have like red jackets on, so you'd know it was them. And they kind of go around entertaining the guests and doing shows and like walking around, etc., etc. Anyhow, so they'd either have like red coats shows, or some nights during the week they'd have like very kind of minor celebrities and like little bands and singers and comedians, magicians, things like that you'd kind of heard of. They'd been on TV a little bit, so you were familiar with them, but they weren't like massive stars as such. Or maybe they were many years ago, not so much when they appeared at Butlins, that kind of thing. You get me? Anyhow, so every night we would go. It was like a big thing, we'd spend the day either doing shopping and going around on the games and stuff, the kids' places that they had there. We'd have obviously meals and stuff, or we'd just sometimes like chill out in the chalet, etc. Anyway, our days were quite busy, but when it got to the evening, it was always the same thing. We'd get dressed up a bit, Mum would always put me in a nice little like frilly dress, do my hair and stuff, put bows in my hair, and we'd all kind of get dressed up. Me, my mum and my dad would get dressed up and we'd go to this theatre for the evening performance, the show. It was the big thing of the of the day to look forward to. Anyway, so we used to go there, and every night that we used to go, even if we went early, we'd always have trouble finding a good seat because everyone else had the same kind of mindset of us, of wanting to get to this show, wanting to see whoever was performing and to get a good seat. And so like literally every night we would go, would end up with these awful seats. I couldn't barely ever see anything because I'm so short now. Imagine how short I was as a kid. Like I was tiny, tiny. And so, you know, they'd have, sometimes this is embarrassing. They'd sometimes have to take like a little cushion with so I could sit on the chair, just so I could see a little bit more. Probably still need to do that now, actually. But anyway, so yeah, so basically we'd go every night, get absolutely useless rubbish seats, couldn't see anything. And then we found out that one of the nights that week we were there, a guy called Tom O'Connor was going to be there having a show. Now, Tom O'Connor, from what I remember, bearing in mind I was young, he was a presenter of a quiz show called Crosswits. So it's like a crossword themed game show that we had on television. And I think he'd done other stuff. I think he was like a comedian as well and stuff like that. And basically my mum and dad really liked this this guy. Being a kid, I didn't really know who he was, but they obviously knew him. And so my mum, okay, here's the bit where you're like, so basically every night we would go, there'd be 2 rows at the front of this Gaiety Theatre that were pretty much completely empty. And the reason why is because the staff had left it for people who were disabled, okay, which, you know, it's fair enough. So they'd have the first 2 rows for disabled people, right? Every time we would go, literally, there'd be no one, or maybe like 2 people, and the rest of the rows were like just left, you know. So all these other people were kind of pushed back, we couldn't see anything, but these 2 front rows were just sort of sitting empty every night. So my mum had the idea, and I will blame this 100% on her because it is her fault. She takes ownership of this, by the way. My mum was just sick of not being able to get good seats and not see anything on the show. So on the site, there was this hire shop. You could hire random things, I don't know, hair dryers and, you know, electrical stuff and things like that. But they also had a section in this hire shop where you could hire aids, like walking aids, wheelchairs, sticks, things like that, frames. So this is terrible. Okay, maybe Nathan is right. Maybe this is a horrible story. Anyway, I'm going to carry on. I'm just going to go with it. So basically, my mum had I don't know where she got this idea, but she got the idea that she would hire a walking stick and pretend that she had a limp, a disability, and yeah, so she hired this walking stick. She told my dad she was going to do it. He was kind of angry, but kind of half like, okay, maybe we'll get some good seats for a change, right? So she went during the day. She hired this walking stick. So on the night of the Tom O'Connor show, she would have this walking stick. She would limp in, fake limp in, and you know, we'd actually get good seats at the front row. So she did it. She had the balls. She went and got it, and she got this walking stick. And she literally come to the show and she was limping along and she had this stick. Only thing is, I think she forgot what side she was supposed to limp on, so she'd be holding the stick on this side but limp on that side. It was anyway. But we got to the door and she said, "Oh, you know, I'm disabled. I've got my stick. Can we sit in the front 2 rows?" You know, the staff don't know everyone that's going on, you know, into the theatre every night, right? So they were like, "Oh, of course, of course." So is it 3 of you? And you were like, "Yeah, just me and my husband and my daughter." "Okay, no, that's fine." So we literally got front row seats to see Tom O'Connor, who I didn't really know of, but they loved him. And anyway, so when we come out of the show, we'd also go to this. So it's like you'd go to the Gaiety Theatre for the performance, the show, and then you'd go up to, I can't remember the name of it. Was it the Ocean View Ballroom or something? So it was a big place where you'll go and there's music and you just kind of drink. There's bars for the adults. There was soft drinks for kids. There's music. There's like a disco sort of, you know, thing where you can have a little boogie. So we'd go from the show to there. And when we got to there, my mum saw one of the redcoats that we were friendly with. Because, yeah, we used to know loads of the different redcoats. And to me, they were like celebrities, these redcoats, because they'd always be there. It was always the same people. And every time you'd go back for your holiday, you know, it was the same redcoats. And we got friendly with this redcoat called Mick. And he was handsome. Ooh, he was handsome. I just had a huge crush on Mick. Mick, if you're watching. But yeah, so we got friendly with him, and so every time we'd go, we'd have a little bit of banter with him, we'd have a laugh with him and stuff. So my mum saw him and she told him what she'd done, and you know, they were laughing, and she's like, "Oh, you know, I managed to get front row, I'm, you know, not shoved up the back, can't see anything." He thought it was hilarious, and anyway, that was that. The next day, I can still remember feeling really embarrassed. The next day, we used to go. So sometimes we go on a holiday and have like self catering. So we just, there was a shop there and stuff, and we just make our own meals and stuff, right? Or we'd have what was it, half board catering. So I mean, you could have full board where you'd have your breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but she didn't want that, so we just used to have half board, which meant we had our breakfast and our dinner. So we'd normally just go out for lunch or just make a sandwich or whatever. But yeah, so we'd have half board, and it was in this big. I think they were like probably about three or four of these restaurants, like communal restaurants where you'd go and have your meals and stuff. Anyway, so we were sitting there the next morning having our breakfast. Now, my mum is quite loud. You probably gathered that if you've watched my channel for a while. She's very confident. She's quite loud. Whereas my dad is actually very, very shy. I mean, he's not as painfully shy as he used to be, but he's still reasonably quiet man. He's quite shy compared to my mum. And yes, we were sitting there having our breakfast, and all of a sudden Mick comes over to us, because they used to come into the communal restaurants as well, just try to check on the guests, make their face known. Hello, everyone, having a good time, And so Mick come over to our table, and sometimes they would actually join you and have their breakfast with you, which was really sweet. And so anyway, Mick come over and he started having his breakfast with us. He sat down, we was all having a chat. And then Mick, oh my God, Mick decided it would be really funny to stand up on the chair that he was sitting on. And he got a glass and he got a spoon and he went ding, 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 and said, everyone, I've got an announcement. Okay, and we were like, what's going on here? Because sometimes they did that for like birthdays, or like if someone had got engaged or something, and everyone claps, that kind of thing. So we were like, well, what's going on? Nothing like that's happening. This makes it even worse, actually. There was a vicar who was with his family, who was obviously holidaying there. He was on like literally a few tables away from us as well. And he said, everyone, there has been a miracle. And then he looks at the priest and he's like, there's been a miracle. He said, last night, this lady couldn't walk properly. She had to have a walking stick. But today, she can walk fine. Oh, my God. And everyone was like, hey. Honestly, it was so embarrassing. And my mum, her face just went bright red. My dad was like under the table. I was like, this is funny. Because I knew what he was doing, obviously. So yes, my mum hired a walking stick just so she could get in the front row to watch a random TV presenter called Tom O'Connor. Now, looking at it now, it is quite bad. But then, to be fair, I'm not defending my mum, or maybe I'm a little bit. There was never anyone in these first two rows, or barely anyone. Obviously, if there would have been disabled people sitting in these two front rows, she wouldn't have done that. My mum's not nasty. She wouldn't have done that. But it was the fact that every time we would go, these two front rows would be pretty much completely empty. So she took a chance. But don't think bad of her or me for finding it funny. It was many, many years ago. And the ironic thing is, my mum's always said that this is karma of what she did at Butlins years ago with a walking stick. Because now my mum does, in fact, use a walking stick. And she is registered as disabled. She has something called lymphedema in her legs, which means they swell up. She has pain, aches, and trouble walking and stuff like that. And she's kind of, whenever she says about her legs and stuff, she's like, I bet it's karma. I bet it's karma from Butlins all those years ago when I hired a walking stick. But I just thought it was a funny little story. Just try and visualise it for a minute. If you're not finding it funny yet and you're like, just try and visualise my mum pretending to limp, forgetting what side she's limping on with this walking stick. And then, as I say, the red coat announcing to everyone, it's been a miracle, she can walk. Okay, maybe it's just us that find it funny. Maybe it's like a family thing that find it funny. I was trying to think of some other like Butlins holiday theme story time. I mean, there were so many funny things that happened at Butlins. Most of my childhood memories are there, and so many funny things happened. I mean, I remember being in this, I'm sure it was called the Ocean View Ballroom for some reason. I'll have to Google it. I wonder if, Google knows what Butlins, used to be back in the day. But anyway, in this big hall, I remember, once again, it was Mick. It was always Mick the red coat. He was very mischievous and cheeky, but we loved him. And I remember Mick was doing like the DJ, and sometimes the Redcoats would like DJ and stuff. And he went over the microphone and said, the lady on that table wearing, I don't know, the orange sweater, which whatever coloured sweater my mum was wearing, he said, that table over there, lady with the orange sweater, we have the official Lambada champion here tonight. And everyone was like, hey. It clearly wasn't my mum. She wasn't Lambardering. Then there was the time my mum queued up. They used to do something called the Donkey Derby at Butlins. And so basically they'd have like 6 donkeys, they're not real donkeys, not pretend donkeys, real donkeys, cute as anything. And you'd have like a little race around this like field that they had there, like this gaming area field thing where they did all the sports and stuff. And they were in a row, all these donkeys, and you'd just basically have a little bet on them. And the kids, like small kids, would be able to like ride the donkeys. My mum was always trying to get me to ride a donkey, and I was like, no, I was always scared. So I never did. But so you'd have 2 queues, right? So you'd have one queue for people to bet on the donkeys, what donkey would win this race, and the other queue was for the child to go and be the jockey as such, to ride the donkey. So anyway, we went along, and my mum wanted to place a bet on a donkey, but she got in the wrong queue, and we were just standing there, merrily waiting in this queue. And then the guy behind us turned around to my mum, oh God, and said, sorry, love, you'd kill it. And she was like, what? Kill what? And then we realised we was in the queue to ride the donkeys. So, yeah, basically he thought that she wasn't really wanting to ride a donkey. She was just in the queue to put a bet on it. But it was the way he said it, you'd kill it, love. At some points, I can remember my mum. Basically, they did like different weekend festivals at Butlins as well. So you could either go for the week, or Monday to Friday break, or weekend, like Friday is Monday, different kind of breaks, yeah. And some weekends they would do this like themed weekend away, and sometimes my dad wouldn't go to those. It'd literally just be me and my mum, and also me and my mum and my grandma would go as well. I think, obviously my mum and dad were starting to have some issues. My mum still wanted to take me away and kind of get away from my dad probably, and so she'd take me away on this Butlins weekend themed trip. And one of the weekends we went to was the children's festival, 80s children's festival themed weekend, and Grot Bags was there. Now if you don't know who Grot Bags is, Google her now, because a lot of you will not have a clue who Grot Bags is. She was in this show called Rod Hole and Emu Show. I think it was called that. And they had this character who was a witch, and she was a big lady. She had green skin, bright green, and big like curly hair, and a big old witch's hat. She was dressed as a witch, so you know what a witch dresses like that. And basically, she was appearing. Grot Bags was going to be there at Butlins. I was really excited because I loved Grot Bags. She was brilliant. And so when we were there, someone come up to us, this man with his little boy, and said to my mum, can I have your autograph? And she's like, oh, I'm not famous, He said, oh, sorry, I thought you were Grot Bags without a makeup on. And he honestly wasn't being like nasty. It's just because my mum, obviously she's a larger lady, and she had the same like curly hairstyle as Grot Bags did. So he's obviously thought she looked a bit facially as well like Grot Bags, and she was really offended that day. Oh my God. I remember like the rest of the evening she kept going, do I look like Grot Bags? Do you think I look like Grot Bags? I was like, oh my God. So yes. I'm trying to think while I'm here, some other funny Butlins stuff. I mean, there's so many, but I can't think of more. I remember doing the karaoke. I'd gone on and on and on to do karaoke. And I kept saying to Mum, please let me do it, please let me do it. And she's like, okay, you can do it. So I picked my song. I chose Whitney Houston. What was it? Oh, I Want to Dance with Somebody, Whitney Houston. And I'd gone up, and then when they announced my name, they was like, Laura, come on down, you're going to sing Whitney Houston now. I got there, I held the microphone, bearing in mind I'd wanted to do this for ages, and I literally just froze. I was so nervous and in shock, I suppose, that I was actually getting to do what I'd want to do for ages. I just froze. I couldn't sing. I just stood there. So music starts playing, and I'm like, so I'm bearing in mind I'm only young. And my mum felt really sorry for me because she, she was just like, oh my God, she's just standing there. So she comes up, puts her arm around me, takes the microphone and starts singing. Bearing in mind, my mum's not a singer. I mean, I'm not particularly a singer, but and she's like, clock strikes upon the hour and the sun. Anyway, them lyrics. And so what the idea was that she was going to kind of, help me, coax me along to sing along with her, and then she was probably going to wander off and just leave me singing. Didn't happen like that. I just got so nervous, I walked off and left her just standing there. And she hadn't we'd literally got into the place, so she had a coat on. It had been raining, so all her hair was all like a mess. She had a handbag in her hand, microphone in the other, and just singing on her own. Oh, she always brings that up as well. She's like, I helped you that time and you just walked off and left me singing. I'm like, oh God, I was like, 10 or 11 or whatever. But yeah, that was funny. Every year we'd go to Butlins, I'd always enter all the fancy dress contests. Every year. I won once. Yeah, I won once and I come second a few times. But I love doing the fancy dress. It was always really good fun. I did do the beauty contest once, but I didn't get anywhere with that. Sad, isn't it? But yeah, it was just such a fun place. But as I say, me and Nathan have looked on YouTube because I've always spoke about my many holidays at Butlins growing up, and we've looked on YouTube at Bognor Regis, Butlins, and it just looks, completely different. They've got like massive hotels there now. I mean, when we were there, we had these, little chalets, as I say, and they were just lovely. Then towards the end, when we stopped going, they brought out these new chalets called the Premiers, and they were like really flash. I mean, for back in the day, really flash chalets. So we stayed in those a few times. But I mean, I remember once getting stuck in one. Me and my mum, we'd gone in like a really basic one, because sometimes we'd go in the, the better quality ones. Sometimes we'd go in like really basic, probably dependent on their money situation. And so, yeah, it's just me and my mum that time, and we'd gone there, and we'd gone to go out of the chalet, and the door wouldn't open. And we were literally stuck in the chalet. I'm claustrophobic, and I've been claustrophobic ever since I was quite young. So clearly I was going like crazy because I wanted to get out. My mum didn't particularly like being locked in a chalet either, and we was quite high up. I think it was on it was on like the third row going up in these chalets. And we was banging and banging on the window, the door. No one was walking past. It was a horrible thing. But you kind of look back and laugh because we were literally just me and her going mad in there, going, let us out, we're stuck, let us out. And back then we didn't have like mobile phones. There wasn't such a thing as mobile phones. We had no phone in the chalet. We had no mobiles because there weren't any. We just had to rely on hopefully someone hearing us banging and seeing us at the window, frantic, like trying to get out, and then going to get someone from the staff. We was in there for ages, and then finally someone helped us, and the staff had to come and do the lock, and they put us in a different chalet after that. But yeah, I don't know. But as I say, I'd love to go back there at some point, but then it would just ruin my memories. I've got so many photographs of me, at Butlins, in different, as I fancy dress contests and on like the go-karts. There used to be a beautiful little lake there, which I don't know if they've still got that, but it was the most beautiful little lake where you could go on these little mini boats. And my dad used to take me on those. I did enjoy going in that little lake. It was not too big, so I never felt like scared. It was just a little lake with these lovely little boats and had all these trees, and there was ducks and stuff in there. It was really nice. But my dad was, as I say, very, very painfully shy, so he didn't really sort of join in. Whereas my mum, would join in and do some of the stuff that you do in that with your parents and the red coats, and it was cool. I loved Butlins, and my friends always used to, like at school, always used to like take the mick out of me because they'd go on holiday to like Spain or America or whatever, and I'd be like, I'm going to Bognor. They'd go, oh, you're going to Butlins again. But honestly, it was amazing. And looking back now, I didn't realise the idea of money and what things cost. I was a kid. Obviously, that was all my mum and dad could afford as well. So they always made sure that, all right, it wasn't as flash as going to France or Spain or whatever. But they got me away. They got me out of this area. They got me having fun. And as I say, Butlins was, and I think still is, aimed at a kind of family market, especially kids. There's so much for kids to do. And it's cheaper. You know, if you can't afford flash holidays and you go to Butlins, you still have a good time. And obviously where it was at Bognor Regis, there was a beautiful, it's like a seaside area. So you come out of the Butlins and then there's like the beach opposite, at a beautiful beach. And there was obviously like local high street with different shops and stuff would go. So it's just a nice place. It's a nice place. But anyway, don't think bad of my mum, because as I say, as she says, she's now got her karma and has got a walking stick herself. So, you know. But yeah, I used to love going there. It was just good memories, good times, funny times. If I'm honest, I think I had more fun when it was just me and my mum, or me and my mum and my grandma. I think when my dad was there, because he was so, like, I don't know, straight-laced, he didn't really want to join in much. He was quite shy. Whereas my mum and grandma were always like up for joining in things and just having a laugh and stuff. I remember my grandma used to really love playing snooker, and they had this snooker hall there, and it was the snooker tables were like proper massive snooker tables, and I could barely reach, and my grandma was only a small lady, so she could barely. We was both like leaning over the table just trying to take a shot. But yeah, good times, good memories. Anyway, so let me know in the comments, did you ever go to Butlins? Where did you go on holiday? Have you got any funny holiday stories from your childhood? And yeah, I hope you've enjoyed watching. I hope I've made you laugh and smile. And if I haven't, I'm sorry. Don't forget, please check out my other channel, Minxlaura123 ASMR. On that channel, I do videos to help people with anxiety, insomnia, kind of stress relief, relaxing sounds and things like that. So yeah, links down below. Minxlaura123 ASMR. Also down below the links to my social media, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Goodreads. And I have a Throne wish list. If you'd like to spoil or treat me, I have a wish list link down below as well. Well, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you soon. I'm trying to think of what I could talk about in more story times, like, you know, like subjects or things that have happened to me. Yeah, I was thinking maybe I could do something about like school days, thinking like talking about my school days, both junior and high school. But I don't know if you'd find that really boring. Maybe you want to know what I was like at school. Maybe you don't care what I was like at school. I don't know. Let me know in the comments. And then I was thinking of doing like a video about ex-boyfriends. I thought it'd be quite funny, talking about my loser exes. But yeah, I don't know. Just let me know. All right then. Take care. Peace. Bye.